The one where Monica and Richard are just friends is pretty much a perfect episode. Every scene of this episode is just gorgeous. This is the 13th episode of the third season of Friends. It's directed by Robby Benson and it's written by Michael Borkow, and it is just fantastic. So as always, I will talk about the various things that I like, the things that I love, which is pretty much everything. So there will be spoilers from this point on. And it's actually quite an easy episode to discuss as we have just 3 main narratives. And honestly, they really milk one of them for all it's worth, but it never felt stale. It felt like it ran on for longer than it should have done on paper, but in reality, it's pretty perfect. And I guess I'll talk about that part of the episode first, even though it's not the first scene that we get. And this is the part with Robert and his shorts, and the fact that you can see a certain private part of his body every time he bends or lifts up his leg, and it starts off with Chandler seeing it, and then Ross, then Joey, and finally Phoebe, and they can't work out how to tell him. And ultimately what happens, and as I said, spoilers, something that I just think is absolutely golden is Gunther coming up to him and telling him to put the mouse back in the house. It's just beautifully written, wonderfully delivered line. And that part of the narrative feels like it shouldn't have gone on for as long as it did. They really milked it, but every single moment was just fantastic. And that's a really good thing about Friends, is that every now and then they do seem to appear to give too much weight to a certain story, a subplot, something that's just a bit of padding. But even when they do that, most of the time, it's still highly entertaining. So I have so much love and respect for the fact that they could take something that's kind of monotonous, it's just the same thing over and over again, but bringing in a different character each time, and still make it so entertaining. The other part of the narrative, or one of the other parts, involves The Shining and Little Women. And Joey keeps a copy of The Shining in the freezer whenever he reads it because he gets scared. And Rachel agrees to read The Shining if Joey reads Little Women. We don't really hear too much of Rachel's thoughts about The Shining, which I think is absolutely fine. It's mostly about Joey and how he's responding to the characters and things that happen. And I love it. And I feel like the episode spoke more to me after I read Little Women. When I first started watching Friends, I was about 10. I hadn't read Little Women, but I read it for the first time, I think, maybe 11, 12 years ago now. So the episode, I think, definitely hits differently if you understand the context. But even if you don't, I still think you can get a lot out of it. And the whole spoilers thing, I love to hate, because I hate spoilers. I don't understand. Obviously, if you give a spoiler warning, it's different, but I don't understand people who are happy to spoil narratives for people, and they're just like, what's the big deal? It's just a spoiler. If you're emotionally invested in a narrative, spoilers are the worst. So I really love that the episode was highlighting that you should try and avoid spoilers at all costs, even though it did technically, in saying that, the episode did actually spoil The Shining and Little Women for viewers. So it's giving the right message, but delivering it in a way that's kind of contradictory. But I'll move on from that very quickly. The main focus of the episode is the fact that Richard is back. And it starts off with this wonderful scene that's so nowadays beautifully nostalgic. We're in the video store, and I don't know if this was filmed in a video store or if it was a set design that they built. I genuinely don't know which would be the most convenient, paying to use a video store or building a set. I'm not sure. If anybody can confirm, please feel free to let me know. But either way, I love looking at this scene because I love looking at the videos and the posters and identifying films that I've seen. And every time I watch this episode, there'll be another film that I've since then seen and can relate to, and I absolutely love it. Richard doesn't have a mustache now, which may seem like a small thing, but it helps to separate previous episodes with Richard with this one. And the only thing I perhaps don't like about this episode, and it's not so much the episode, but Richard, is that I feel like he was maybe slightly taking advantage of Monica. I know they're both fully grown adults, they can make their own decisions, But Monica had an exceptionally difficult time trying to get over Richard, and he knows this. And the fact that he kind of asked her out, it was just for a burger, definitely innocent. But I feel like he definitely instigated a lot of what happened in this episode. And I think maybe, not intentionally taking advantage of her, but I think he should have been the bigger person and said, no, we shouldn't do this because I know how difficult it was for you last time. Because at the end of the day, he would happily still be in a relationship with her. It's because of something that she wants that they're not together. And he's kind of overlooking that and allowing himself to spend time with Monica, knowing that she still has these emotions. And yeah, as I said, they're both fully grown adults that can make their own decisions. But I just feel like Richard shouldn't have let things go the way they should have done. Maybe I'm alone with that thought. Maybe Monica was fully responsible, but I don't feel like she was stable enough emotionally to make the right decisions. I think Richard took advantage of that emotional instability. But aside from that, it's a good episode, and I think the way it ended in this episode was pretty good. And I feel like it's the right time as well. Enough time has passed for us to be over the previous relationship without too much time having passed that we've completely moved on from Richard. So the timing was, I think, pretty perfect. And so is this episode. It's an absolutely brilliant episode. Every scene is fantastic. There's nothing in this that I didn't love. The one where Monica and Richard are just friends is a golden episode, and I will always absolutely love watching it.